So I have been waiting 228 days for this accomplishment. It was over 3 months ago in episode 17 of this series where I showed my first victory over R5 using solo teams on this account. I even said in that video, like, one of my videos coming up real soon will be my R5 solo team explanation for this account. I put together this R5 solo team about 4 days ago, and I've been testing it ever since. I didn't want to make a video with having an R5 solo team that just fails a lot. I really wanted it to be doing a lot of 10 runs with no fails, and that's what it's been doing the last few days. And we're finally starting to get swift and rage and violent grinds, which really need for my teams to advance. My teams had been fine on R4 for 3 months. R4 drops mostly blue grinds, and it really wasn't helping my monsters get the stats they needed. So I spent the last week taking my R4 teams and modifying them so that they can be useful in R5. And it looks like we might have a wipe here. So this team isn't 100%, generally doesn't fail very often. Let's go take a look at what's going on right here. The middle team wiped, and the middle team is the weakest team of this setup. We're about to lose the right team unless, well, Shushu just did a really nice heal there. So that's going to let the right team stay around a bit longer. Got a heal. But our back row, our front row is now gone. Next turn, the Homunculus is gone. When the boss removes buffs from your team, it heals up. And without a... there's a scar. Oh my god, we made it. But if you look at the record before that, while I was prepping for the video, the 3-minute run, 346, 241, 249, 228, and none of the teams wiped. Oh no, the middle team wiped there. And it's not uncommon for the middle team to wipe near the end. Like I said, we're on, runes from 228 days of farming, where I was also doing a lot of XP farming and all those other things. So that was a much more typical run. 225. So yeah, that's the average I've been getting is right around a little bit below 2.5 minutes per run. It's a nice swift grind. We will take that. Every time the boss gets hit 16 times, it will remove all beneficial effects on all your teams, and then it will recover the HP in proportion to the number of removed beneficial effects. So if you don't have a heal block on at the time the boss does that, his HP goes up really high, especially if you've got a lot of buffs on in that particular round. So that's why heal block is so important, because my R4 teams were rock solid. It was like 1.5 minutes, 1 minute and 20 seconds, and when I tried to use them in R5, I was wiping all the time. So even if you have successful R4 setup for solo, you're probably still going to need to make some pretty decent changes to your R5 setup, because it's just harder. The boss is a lot harder to kill. You need to do a lot more damage. You need to survive longer. For a light and dark only account, you kind of need to create an R5 solo. And honestly, I like doing R5 solo better than trying to do raids with other people, because you can only do raids while that's going on if you're doing it with other people. Whereas if you do solo R5, you can do R5 in the background while you're working on arena wings, ruining up other monsters, going through your runes. There's a lot of other things you can do while you're still getting the benefits of R5. The first deck is the Dark Homunculus, and I think we're going to try to try to remove him, I think. But Dark Homunculus is mainly there for a defense break, and then he resets the cooldown times of the rest of the team, which is very helpful. But that's the only utility he really brings. And well, he also does a attack speed slow on the boss, and then does an attack speed up on your team. So it allows your team to get more moves. So that is helpful. But one of the most critical debuffs is that heal block, because you don't want the boss healing when he removes beneficial effects from your teams. It makes it really hard to kill him. So we're going to put Darion in the back row, and then we're going to put Fran, and I'm trying to remember which Fran I was using. I think it was the one with shield. Probably not. We'll use the one with fight runes and see if that helps at all. Fight runes will allow us to do more damage, and our big damage dealer is Crow. It certainly won't hurt to have fight runes on Fran. Now, Crow is very slow for this. I need to make him faster, and I think that would make my R5 team even more reliable. But that's the first team. Second team is Mookwol, Vero, and the lead is Vero. So Rasheed is on the team as well. Janie's in the back row. Eshir's in the back row. Elsharion. Mookwol is on the team for his immunity, and then his glancing debuff. That's really the only utility he provides. He doesn't do any damage. I was trying not to use any LD5s or any LD4s that are not fusions in this setup, but immunity is just so valuable, and I don't have another good third monster for immunity, so we put Mookwol in, and his immunity is very helpful. Vero is there for the HP lead, and that's and then for his cleanse, which is a limited cleanse, but it's still useful and helpful. We don't want Dark Bearman in the back row. We want him in the front row and Crow in the back row. There we go. That was a mistake. So Rasheed is an interesting pick. Skill 1 is just she heals herself, so she self-heals. Skill 2 is the important skill, which is why she's in here. She extends the time of beneficial effects and shortens the time of harmful effects granted on all allies, and recovers their HP by 10% each. And the recovery amount increases by 10% per harmful effect or per beneficial effect granted on the allies. So her heal is massive. If you have a bunch of debuffs and some buffs, she frequently heals up the entire team. And one of the things I could do to improve her for future runs is to get her speed up so that she's taking more turns more often. And so then that heal will come in more often and really make the team safer. So that's one of the things we can do to improve this middle team that gets killed a lot. Skill 3 does decent damage against the boss, but she's not on a crit damage build. So her skill 3 will create a shield on all allies for 2 turns if the enemy dies. But when the boss is killed, R5's over, so this skill 3 is only for damage. But she's on Shield Swift, and I chose stats to make her really tanky and really improve her defense so she could be in the front row, and also really increase her resistance. But she doesn't need that much resistance, so I will try to lower her resistance a little bit, because we have a 30% resistance lead. She only needs 70%. Jamie is in there to do damage, and more importantly, do a 3-turn attack buff, and then also a full cleanse. One really important thing to discuss is synergy. You really want the team to have a lot of synergy so it does really good things for R5. And so this team actually has 2 examples of really good synergy. First one is Vero and Rasheed. If Vero gets Oblivion and then Rasheed takes a turn, and she does her skill 2, where she decreases the time of debuffs on your monsters, that Oblivion will go from 2 turns down to 1 turn, and then as soon as Vero takes a turn, the Oblivion will go away. And so the result is that his cleanse is available much more frequently with Rasheed on that team. If Rasheed was on another team, she wouldn't be able to help Vero like that. So that's a really nice synergy. And then the other nice synergy is Eshir and Elsharion, as well as the rest of the team. So the way Eshir helps Elsharion is that our attack bar increase, and then also a speed increase. And Elsharion does damage based off of speed and based off the number of buffs that go on him. And so you've got Mookwol's immunity. I don't think Rasheed does any buffs. She just helps extend the buffs. So Rasheed is extending the buffs, which means the buffs are on Elsharion longer, so he has more buffs to do more damage. But you've got immunity, and then you got attack power buff, and then you got a speed buff, and then at the very beginning you have shield runes. So that's up to 4 buffs on Elsharion, so he's going to do some pretty good damage. The last deck is Diaz, but if you can't pull him, it's not easy to pull him, then Jeanne, the light paladin, is a good replacement for him. So Jeanne does not do damage mitigation like he does, but she has a 41% resistance lead, which means the rest of your monsters need less resistance overall, and she provides a 1-turn invincibility for targets that are getting low on HP. So she provides different benefits, and she can be used to replace Diaz. So Diaz is on the team mostly because of his passive. He decreases the chance of him receiving a critical hit by 50%, and then reduces the damage received from the light attribute by 50%, and then reduces the damage that other allies receive by 15%. So he's doing a damage reduction for the entire team. And then skill 2 is useful because he has 2 chances to put an attack power break and a defense break on the boss, and those land quite often. Skill 1 is awesome because it has the HP recovery block. So it's got the heal block. It's on skill 1, so whenever his skill 2 is on cooldown, he's putting a heal block on the boss. So he's really good for R5. And then we got the 2A Bella. And 2A Bella is there for a little bit of attack bar reduction on skill 1, but mostly the defense break. And then, well, the strip, so Bella's really not going to use her skill 2. She only strips if there's something to strip. The boss never has buffs on her. So she occasionally uses it, but it's not very often. But then skill 3 is the big one. Fills the attack bar of all allies by 30% and recovers their HP by 35%. So she's really useful for that. And then the last one in the front, and you'll notice that her defense is over 1,300, so that she can survive being in the front row. And then Shushu is the last one in the front row. Shushu is there because Shushu is one of the few sources of AoE immunity that's available. Grants immunity on all allies with full HP for 2 turns. So it's nice, but you do need to get everybody up to full HP. So I need to get this skill skilled up to get extra healing in. And then she has a limited cleanse on skill 2. And that's on 2 targets, so it helps out a little bit. And skill 1 is just healing, and a tiny bit of damage. So shield rune set though, because Shushu 2A has really nice base HP, so it's good to put a shield rune set. And she probably should not be on violent, except that you want your monsters that have the ability to cleanse to potentially be on violent, because cleansing is really important in R5. Generally, you only want damage dealers to be on violent and proccing, because then they could do another big damage on the boss. You don't really want your support monsters, especially just your healers, on violent, because they're, I mean, it's nice if they proc and heal up some more for the team, Oftentimes it's tacking onto that counter on the boss for 16 moves. And once the boss gets to 16, it'll remove all of your beneficial effects, put a ton of debuffs on, really hurt your team. Last, the back row is Cameron, Light Penguin, and finally the Light Joker. And so those are the three teams. And so on this third team, Diaz's damage reduction, heal block on skill 1, attack power break and defense break on skill 2. He's fabulous. Bella is defense break, heal, and attack bar boost. Shushu is heal and immunity. Cameron is damage, and also very importantly, she has a skill 1 glancing hit. So she'll be really good there, and she does really good damage with skill 3, and her skill 2 puts a attack speed slow on the boss. So she's really good for R5. But you will need to make her, so mine's on speed, crit damage, HP, because if she's on attack percent, she doesn't have enough HP to survive. And her defense is pretty low, so it might even be good to go speed, speed, crit damage, defense, if you can get HP in other places. So, but you can see she's a little bit slow, but not too bad. But crit rate, crit damage are where you want them to be for a damage dealer. So that's why she's on the team. So Light Penguin is mostly there for his third skill. Removes all harmful effects on all allies, and then increases the attack gauge by 15% more if it removes harmful effect. Dona is great for R5 for an LD only team. It's almost required to use him, and I believe the game still gives him to you through Summoner's Way. You'll have him, and he needs to be built. Should be faster. His skill 3 is amazing, and with him only having plus 51 speed, he's not using it very often. So I really should, one of the ways I can improve this team is up his speed by 50 or 60 at least, and then he'll be taking a lot more turns. Dona's skill 2 is not bad either. Decreases attack speed, decreases defense, both for 2 turns. And then skill 1 really doesn't matter. You can't stun the boss, so that's kind of useless. And then finally, the Light Joker is in there, and I put the Light Joker in there, 1, because he disturbs enemy HP on skill 1. Skill 2 is random effects between stun, which won't happen, glancing hit rate increase, and attack speed decrease. You got a 2 out of 3 chance to put a very useful debuff on the boss from skill 2. And then his passive also does bombs, and bombs do land on the boss and do damage. So it's not a bad thing. And then also has a 25% chance to cancel incoming damage. So Figaro survives pretty good. But still definitely in the back row, and the resistance is terrible. You actually don't need very much accuracy in R5. I've seen some videos and some posts on Reddit that say you really only need about 25% accuracy. Some even say 15. So he does not need 95% accuracy, but I have him built for Siege. And because R5 and Siege use the same sets of runes, if I lower his accuracy, he's going to become less effective in Siege. So we're just trying to make things fit. But those are the teams. That's why each member is on each team. The best leader skills for R5 are defense, HP, resistance, and crit rate. You want to try to get 3 of those 4 leader skills on your team. So I've got HP from Vero, I've got resistance from Diaz, and then I've got defense for dark monsters from Basalt. It would be better if I had defense across the board, but I just don't have a good defense leader skill. And then if you can't come up with one of those 4, and I don't have a good crit rate leader skill either. So if you can't come up with one of those 4, then the next best one is probably attack, so that all your nukers will do more damage. The really important debuffs that are almost required for R5 is glancing hit, attack power break, heal block, and defense break. And you want to have at least one monster on each team that could do one of those 4 debuffs. Ideally, you have 2 or 3 monsters that can do one of those debuffs, so that each team can provide all of the debuffs in case one of the teams wipes. This team does not have heal block, and it also doesn't have glancing. So this team is lacking a lot. It survives really well with Basalt's defense buff and having 2 healers. But it's not contributing nearly as much as it should. Okay, so with light and dark only accounts, the thing that you're limited to the most is immunity and glancing. It's really hard to get those. If you aren't lucky in summoning at all, you only have 2 monsters that can do AoE immunity, and that's Fran and Shushu. So those are definitely going to be on your R5 teams. They provide other benefits too, but you don't have a third source of AoE immunity. I just happen to luck into getting Mookwol, which allows me to do that. So really, Mahale is good for her skill 3 only, because skill 2 doesn't really help you either. But skill 3 does a 30% heal, increases their defense for 3 turns, and then grants immunity for 1 turn with all allies who have full HP. So if she does a nice heal, she can put immunity on everyone and a defense buff on everyone. And we've seen that Basalt's defense buff is really, really nice for the team he's on. So she would be very good as a third source of immunity. Another one is Ileana, who does 2-turn immunity on everyone. It also provides an invincible for whoever she targets. And then also grants a shield, which is amazing for R5. So Ileana is really good for R5. I'm not even going to bother with the Nat 5s because we're probably not getting them ever. And then Beta is actually a pretty good R5 monster. Skill 1 doesn't really do much of anything. But skill 2 recovers target's HP and attack bar. And can also revive. Have really bad RNG, but just one of your monsters dies, Beta can get that monster back and heal it up to 40%. Skill 3 is what she's useful for R5, is that 20% heal on everybody, decreases their chances of receiving a critical hit, which is very nice, and then grants them immunity for 2 turns. The only LD 2 stars and 3 stars that come with glancing are Cheryl, who that's basically the only thing that she does that really would help an R5 team other than her revive. But if you're needing to revive your team, you're probably not really ready for R5. So Cheryl doesn't make much sense. So Linda could be another option for replacing the Light Joker, because she provides some similar things. Now she just does a dot with the first one, which doesn't matter, but defense break and also absorb the attack bar. And then this one is really nice for R5. So decrease attack power, decrease attack speed, increase chance of glance and hit, and beneficial effects blocked. So the last one doesn't matter, although that can provide another debuff, so that Crow does more damage with his S3. So Linda's actually a really nice monster for R5, especially with her glancing. The only problem is that her glancing is on skill 3, so you need to make sure that's fully skilled. Huadam and also the Dark One are somewhat interesting in that they have a attack power break, and then if they crit, they also do a glancing hit debuff. So those are 2 really nice debuffs. Skill 2 only decreases attack bar by a little bit. His passive will prevent an ally from dying, and then 30% of his max HP gets transferred over. So If you have a team that wipes quite a bit, Wadam might be a good one to put on that team to try to help keep that team going. And then he also does have a critical rate of ally monsters by 17%. So if you have a lot of damage dealers who are low on crit rate, he could be a decent R5 lead. How are things looking over here? So Jamie's almost dead, and there went Vero. One of the things that's wrong with this middle team is that Jamie actually is fairly low on HP. I need to get better HP on him. And then Rasheed is slow. So her massive heal is not happening often enough. So we really need to work on getting those two things fixed. And then I think if we can get just both those things fixed, I think this middle team is going to survive a lot better. And now we're waiting for him he's up to 10, 11. Every time someone's turn ends, that 16 hit clock goes up 1. And we really want, the heal block's gone. It's a really bad time. It looks like he didn't heal that much, which is good. Once again, no heal block. So we definitely need to figure out a way to get another heal block onto one of the teams without ruining the team synergy. There's a heal block now. Dark Bearman just did his cleanse, which helps quite a bit. But boss just did more debuffs again. This team's in pretty good shape. It's nice to see. Now this team needs more damage. Only Cameron is doing decent damage here. 13 mysticals. Can we get a dupe net 5? Here comes lightning. 4-star, not helpful. I don't have him. I don't have light and dark of him. And no mystic witches, so although we did get a werewolf, which is good. Okay, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this video tonight. We had 2 more LD chances, so can we get something good? Come on, something new. Something. It's not lightning. Secret Dungeon Bella. Can we get an LD from this? That's what we're hoping for. Got lightning, but is it LD? No, it's another Kamoon. So disappointing, but I hope you enjoyed this LD only R5 solo guide. You can see that we're really close on having a really solid R5 solo team, and my mission now is to spend a couple of months just farming R5 and continue to watch it, continue to see where parts of the team are failing, and making some updates to the teams. The biggest updates I need to do right now is I need to get my cleansers speed way up so that they're taking more turns. I'll be happy for them to take more turns if they can cleanse off the boss's debuffs. A key point here is that yes, the runs are slow, but so far they've been pretty reliable, and so this is one of the things that I can farm when I need to put my phone down and go do other stuff, because I'll still get my grinds, and I'll come back a half hour later and it's completed, and I can reset it, and I can go take care of other stuff. So that's it's always nice to have a couple of elements of the game where you don't necessarily have fast teams, but that they're pretty reliable, so you can farm them while you're off doing other stuff in life that's way more important than this game. Hope you enjoyed this. Really like making videos for you guys. We're pushing for 1,000 subscribers. That's our next goal. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe below. I would really appreciate it. We just want to keep growing the channel. Thanks a lot, and we will see you in the next one.